Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's show, I was just going to do, the top Texans trade targets to improve the roster, and I was going to have this whole, nice speech about, there's a lot of moving pieces around the NFL right now, and, Davante got traded today to the Jets, and Amari Cooper got traded to the Bills, so could the Texans make a big trade moving forward? And right before I started filming, the Texans made a trade of their own. They are sending away Cam Akers to the Minnesota Vikings, who, funny enough, that's who we played with last season. They, in return, get a 2026 conditional round pick, a 6th-rounder, and the Vikings are getting a 2026 7th-round pick conditional. We don't know those conditions yet. I'm guessing it has to do something around him being on the roster for a certain amount of snaps or a certain amount of time for the season. Something like that. It will come out probably from Aaron Wilson here in a little bit, but this shows you a lot how the Texans feel about Dameon Pierce, Joe Mixon, and the running back room, and how much they feel about Cam Akers and his performance without those guys. So the Texans sending away a guy, they get a 2026 conditional round pick. I mean, cool, I guess, but this is my promise to you. If a Texans player gets traded, if anything happens around this team, I got you covered. So make sure you smash that subscribe button for free Texans content all year long. I am promising you this. I will deliver you free content around your favorite team, the Houston Texans, 24/7 all year long. If you are already subbed to the channel, drop those H's down in the comment section. Let me show you some love as we get into today's video. Originally planned, which was the top trade targets for the Houston Texans moving forward towards the NFL trade deadline. First up, Budda Baker. Budda, rocket everywhere. The safety out of Arizona. And this is a trade that I've been kind of eyeing throughout this first part of the season. And it's made it a little bit more difficult with how the Cardinals have been playing. But I think Budda Baker would be an amazing addition to this Texans defense. He's a great, cover safety, a great guy on the back end in coverage. I think he would really fit nicely into what the Texans like to do on defense. Over the past 4 seasons in Arizona, Budda has really played well. Last year, only played in 12 games, but the year prior, 2 interceptions, over 100 tackles in 2022. In 2021, 3 interceptions and just 2 tackles short of 100 tackles. And my take on this is, I don't think the Cardinals are interested in trading him as of right now, but maybe if you are willing to shell out a 3rd-round pick, that might get the ball rolling. He is in the last year of his contract currently with the Arizona Cardinals, so if you do trade for him, you more than likely have to sign him to an extension. The only hiccup now is also, maybe it's not a bad thing, how well rookie Kalen Bullock has been playing. He has been balling out. 2 interceptions on the season for the 3rd-round pick out of USC. He has looked fantastic in this Texans defense on the backside. Now, I do have to say, there has been a couple rookie moments, and he did get the benefit of the doubt up against the Jacksonville Jaguars on a couple of missed assignments. Trevor Lawrence just totally missed some guys. But overall, I really like what I've seen out of Kalen Bullock. The tackling issues really haven't been a factor so far for Bullock. I think he's really good on the back end, and maybe the Texans don't need to trade for a safety with him playing so well. Same with Eric Murray. He's played pretty well. That interception up against the Patriots was outstanding that he had on Drake May. But I want to hear from you. Be honest. You were to trade for one position on this team, what position would it be? What is the position that worries you the most around this team? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, perfect timing. Scroll on down and let me know what position worries you the most on this team. I'll get into my answers later on in the program. A position that might be a popular one down there, especially with the latest suspension to Mario Edwards Jr., is defensive tackle, and Jeffrey Simmons is my second Texans trade target. And I know what you're saying, interdivision trade, the Titans. Jeffrey Simmons also just signed a contract extension, Jeremy. What are you talking about? Well, I have some sources that are saying that Simmons might not be that happy in Nashville, and I know he has been one of the best interior defensive linemen in the National Football League, but, I mean, scouts are kind of going to waste in Nashville. They don't have a team that's ready to contend right now. The Texans do, and with everything going on around this team, could the Texans possibly look to add another guy along this defensive line? Now, the defensive line has not been the problem so far with the Texans. You're getting DeMeco Ryans off of suspension. Mario Edwards Jr. is now going on to suspension, so maybe that could be a factor. Kurt Hinish, I know it says that he's on short-term IR. He actually just got activated today, so he is available to play at defensive tackle. You have Khalil Davis, Tim Settle. Foley Fatukasi has been amazing at the defensive tackle position, but I wouldn't mind adding a big name right there to just make this the scariest defensive line unit you've ever seen. I mean, the Giants won a Super Bowl with their defensive line and how good it was with Eli Manning. The Texans have a quarterback that I believe is much better than Eli Manning and C.J. Stroud. If you conduct a defensive line that is that scary, that good, and can really just get after the quarterback every single down with only 4 down linemen, that could be something that a lot of teams, especially pass-happy teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, could be a little bit scared of. And that's why I went with another guy, actually another interdivision guy here in Arik Armstead with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And kind of same thing I just said about Jeffrey Simmons, even though I think Simmons' contract is a lot more, friendly to trade. I looked it up before. Only past this year, Simmons has $6 million guaranteed left on his contract. Arik Armstead, it's a little bit different. He just signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars this offseason, so that might be a little bit tough, but I think the Jaguars might be in a better position to trade somebody like him away because they've only won 1 game this season. They're not contending at all this year. So could they possibly look to add some more draft capital as they gear up for next season? With his time in San Francisco, Arik Armstead looked really good. He was one of the better interior defensive linemen. Now, granted, that whole unit in San Fran was really good. And reminder, Arik Armstead's a guy who worked with DeMeco Ryans in the past while DeMeco was the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. I think both these guys getting traded is unlikely. It's an interdivision trade, plus they just signed expensive deals. I do think Simmons might be a little bit more viable with the money aspect of it. Do the Titans feel comfortable trading him interdivision? I'm not sure, but if there's any possibility, I would love the Texans to make that move and just, put it on the table and say, hey, we are going all in, chips forward. We want to win this season. We will do everything within our power to make that happen. I think Nick Caserio, I'm in a group chat with a lot of Texans content creators, a lot of Texans fans on Twitter, and they said, Nick Caserio is a guy where if he makes a move like this, trading away Cam Akers, he's probably got 2 or 3 other moves in the back of his head that he's ready to pull the trigger on. Just like during the draft, Nick Caserio loves to make trades. I think he's already has the wheels moving, ready to wheel and deal. I'm really excited to see what Caserio does as we get closer and closer to that trade deadline. I have 3 more names for you. But first, I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at Prize Picks. That is daily fantasy sports made easy, folks. They're America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And if you're wondering, hey, Jeremy, I don't even know what's over on Prize Picks. What different projections can you play? And I actually found this one. I think Prize Picks feels bad. And they're like, what, we might want to give away some free money this weekend. Because Joe Mixon, 59.5 rush yards against Green Bay. Yes, please. This dude has been going off all year long. He has been, in my opinion, a top 5 running back when healthy this season. So 59.5 rush yards, I'm spamming the more. If you agree with me, type more down in the comments section. Play Prize Picks with me. Let me know what you think about this one. But get started today. If you want to make easy money on picks just like that, get started. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. The next trade target for you is in the secondary. It's Greg Newsome. And you might see a common theme here. A lot of defensive guys in my trade targets. It's because I don't really see offense being a need or where the Texans could really possibly make a trade. I think on the defensive side is where they could make a move more than likely. And why not a guy like Greg Newsome, where the Browns, I told you at the top of the show, they already traded Amari Cooper for a bag of peanuts. It could be a fire sale over in Cleveland. And the Texans, they actually they have some, I don't know if you knew this, they actually have some history trading with the Cleveland Browns. So there could be a working connection already there with the front offices. Greg Newsome not having a great year in Cleveland, kind of a down year for his standards. Could the Texans swoop in and try to make a move for the cornerback? They have D'Angelo Ross, who played well with Kamari Lassiter being injured this past week. Jeff Okudah is still on short-term IR. And behind that, you have Miles Bryant. You have Chris Boyd. I don't know if those guys inspire a ton of confidence. And obviously, like I said, also D'Angelo Ross. But maybe you want to add another guy to that secondary, another guy to that cornerback room to add some more depth behind Stingley and Lassiter. Maybe a former first-round pick in Emmanuel Forbes could be another guy. I actually talked with our Commanders host, Jack Sperry, about the possibility of this trade, and he actually told me you can have him. You can have him for a 7th. You can have him for a 2026 7th. I don't care. Get him off my roster. He's been a healthy scratch in Dan Quinn's defense, and I don't know if it's just he doesn't really fit the new scheme as well this season or if he's really just a bust. But if the Texans are maybe willing to take, flyers on guys in the offseason like a Jeff Okudah, like a C.J. Henderson, why not maybe take a flyer on a former first-round pick in Emmanuel Forbes from the Commander? If they're willing to just give him up for nothing, if they're just saying, hey, we don't want to play him, maybe if they even are considering cutting him, why not send them a 7th-round pick in 2026 and say, hey, we'll take him off your hands and maybe DeMeco can coach him up and maybe he fits better in our scheme than in your scheme. So that's another option that I've seen kind of floated around the Twitter space, floated around kind of Texans social medias of this could be another guy that the Texans go out and get in the trade market. Now, the last guy, the only offensive player that I'm going to put, it's an offensive lineman, and it's another Cleveland Brown because, like I said, it could be a fire sale. It could be a good old yard sale over there in Cleveland. My grandmother, rest in peace, she loved a good yard sale. Wyatt Teller, though, could be somebody that the Texans look at because I'm not convinced that the Texans' interior offensive line is set. Kenyon Green has played okay. Juice Scruggs has played okay. Shaq Mason has kind of had a down year for his standards of play this year. So maybe they want to add somebody else on the interior. They do have Kendrick Green already. They have Nick Broker, Jarrett Patterson as well. But if they don't feel comfortable with those guys, maybe they look at a guy like Wyatt Teller who's had a lot of experience, who's played very well at both guard spots. Maybe bring him in and say, hey, Kenyon Green, Shaq Mason, if y'all aren't going to play up to the standards that we want, if we're not able to, open up holes, if we're not able to protect the passer, we have another guy waiting in the wings in Wyatt Teller. Just an option if the Texans are looking to maybe improve somewhere on the offensive line. That's the only one that I really saw that made sense for me. Like I said, trading offensive linemen, much tougher than other positions because there is an O-line shortage in the National Football League. Not a lot of teams are willing to part with good offensive linemen these days because not a lot of teams have a ton of good offensive line depth. So a guy like Wyatt Teller could bring some of that depth in for the Texans on a team that, at this point, I think they're kind of trying for the number 1 overall pick, and I think Deshaun Watson's time in Cleveland might be over. So another guy that the Texans could look at more towards the trade deadline. Those are all the names that I have on today's show for you. Let me know. Did I miss anybody? Are there any other trade targets that I should be looking at? If there is, go ahead and hit me up on social media, either on X at Jeremy Chuggs, my Texans Today page over on Instagram, or for the Gen Z, Gen X, whatever, got TikTok. So make a little TikToks. Do a little TikTok dances. I got you covered on all social media platforms. Go give me a follow. Those links are going to be in the comment section of today's video. As always, Texans fans, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.